Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies with today's Monday's Musings on the 27th of October 2025. To look into what is set to be an interesting week, a week that is going to sort out the many dimensions and many therefore directions we are all currently facing, whether we're aware of them or not. It's going to come through in several ways. There's going to be a lot of external input that is coming through this week to help establish where we are at. And no matter what you look at this week, whether it's this weekly video, whether it's the news outside, whether it's some of the things that are going on astrologically, which I'm going to discuss in a bit, and a lot of the things that are going on in our solar system or things that are happening in your local community. However the information comes through, it is an opportunity to look at where you're at. I can hear the song "Where's My Head At?" and that's the key. Where is our head at? One of the things I tried to do this morning with the daily dose is understand something that was yet to be materialized. Understand something that was way beyond my own understanding, and there's a real emphasis on that this week. It's important to acknowledge our knowledge. It's also vital to be aware that it isn't the be-all and end-all. And I can take that on board. I was doing a beautiful shadow workshop Saturday as one of the last creative expression sessions, and we all embodied our shadow, and one of my shadow aspects is this belief that I know better. That's not about shunning those aspects of ourselves this week, but really being aware of them, because they do have roots and core wisdom within them. I do know myself better than anyone knows me, just like we all do. And if we can tap into the more egotistical, the more avoided parts of our bodies, the more less than pleasant, particularly in the view of society, parts of ourselves this week, there is a wonderful opportunity to bring forth what we haven't even tapped into yet. Now, whether that's individual or on the collective, it's very important that we allow space for that. How does that come through? Well, that comes through in acknowledging when we don't know something without filling in the gaps. So the daily dose this morning, the message was very clear. My need to understand how it was relevant to me and how I could therefore share it confuse the situation. And there may be times this week where it isn't relevant to you, where you are literally just asked to pass a message on. It feels important to recognize that needs to come with consent for you and the people that you're passing that on as well, particularly when the veil is thin. I've been inundated with well-meaning insights into my life this week that I haven't actually asked for. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of whether or not the situation you have the offering for is ready to receive it. And bring that back to yourself as well. Are you ready to fully receive what is going on? So what I'm getting at here, and some of the energy this week is going to be like not a rabbit hole, but like a timeline hole that you can get caught into. What I'm getting at here is, how open are we to not knowing the answers? How uncomfortable does that make us feel, and how willing are we to stand in that? To really feel into the wisdom that has been lost, the wisdom that is trying to return in the silence that many are avoiding, simply by acknowledging where you're at. So I'm acutely aware that there was something else trying to come through then that I can't place anymore, that is now intangible because of going through other sides of what I wanted to share. It doesn't have to be relevant to you to share it. What's important, you don't have to be perfect to share it. You don't have to have embodied everything before you share it. What's important is that you allow whatever is coming through the space to do so in a very authentic, original source. Why is that so important? Well, this week we have a lot going on astrologically. We also have the thinning of the veil. We have so much energy coming through as we are in Scorpio season that is of a more psychic nature. It is going to be the flow that moves us forward next year. It is going to be the very water that turns the wheel, if you will, our emotions. But it is important that we recognize the difference between intuition and inner tuition. You know, is it based on what we have experienced, Or is it deep intuition that goes beyond our, let's face it, very restrictive realities at times because of how we see things or how we feel things should be, or our own judgments or our own experiences? Our experiences are a very small amount of the wisdom that's trying to come through, and if we get too caught up in trying to make it relate, or aka trying to understand it, we're going to taint it. I can see the water being very murky. We're going to confuse the situation. It is important, however, to be discerning. It isn't about understanding everything, but being aware of the awareness that is coming through and how expansive it is. But to be discerning with that and ourselves as the container of it. Are we allowing things to reach their full potential, the messages coming through included? Is there anything else on that? Well, astrologically, I think from tomorrow, I did write it down actually. Yes, from tomorrow we have a water trine, and that water trine is Mars in Scorpio, Jupiter in Cancer, and Saturn in Pisces. So think very intuitive type energy, but also think very confusing emotional energy if we try and make our emotions what they're not. As we lead into the 2nd of November, by the end of the week, there's going to be a great opportunity to allow the blurred lines of what is occurring to show us where we have kept the peace at the cost of our own authenticity. That discernment comes from us. That discernment comes from the truth and reality of where we're at. Now, when I sense into that, there is definitely some things going on that I do not understand, that I'm not supposed to understand, that could be incredibly contracted by my own consciousness. I think after that we have an opportunity. There's a lot going on with Uranus as well. There's a lot going on with Pluto as well. And we have an opportunity to receive some sudden insights if we allow ourselves to be, it's not even more curious, it's more, yeah, it is more conscious. I think I should pay myself for the amount of times I say the word conscious in this video, because there's a lot of that coming through. It is the collective consciousness. The guidance this morning was, it is the collective consciousness that will move us forward. But we must recognize where we are. We must recognize our role in that. We must recognize where we have perhaps prohibited that, not taken responsibility for that, not acted on that, not addressed that, not embraced that, not received that. Okay, anything else on that? It does feel important not to go over old stories. There is that opportunity this week. So when I talk about not rabbit holes, but timeline holes or loops, if you will, closing down, we have that opportunity. And it's recognizing when we want to understand something, from what energy do we want to understand it? Do we want to understand it to placate it? Do we want to understand it to make sense of it, compartmentalize it, control it? Or do we want to understand it because we want to take that wisdom further now? And if that's the case, what is it we actually need in order to take that further? It is our own understanding of ourselves in the process. Do we trust that? Do we trust ourselves? So the song that came through this morning was The Cosmic Girl from Jamiroquai. And yes, I'm writing different dates in my diary. Yes, I am flitting backwards and forwards along my own awareness of things that have occurred. I'm even going to use the deck called the Cosmic Tarot today, which I haven't connected to, and I'm acutely aware that there's going to be gaps in that knowledge, there's going to be gaps in that wisdom, there's going to be, yes, thank you, opportunities. Recognizing any gaps in our wisdom, in our healing, in our creativity, our manifestation, our surety, our relationships, our circumstances, our understanding, any gaps are opportunities to allow something different to come through. Do we trust that? Do we trust ourselves? Have we become comfortable with where we're at, even when we claim not to be, individually and collectively? Is there anything else on that? It feels very important to work with the ancestors this week. Well, at all times, but to work with the ancestors this week and to recognize that it doesn't take Samhain or Halloween or Day of the Dead to have that connection. That connection is there all the time. This week is more an opportunity to recognize that the only veil between us and them, the only veil between us and our potential, the only veil between us and light beings or guides or energies around us, nature, whatever that may be, or the wisdom that we're trying to achieve, is the veil that we put there, the illusion of separation. It's going to come through a lot more as we go into 2026. We have the year of the wheel, we have the 10, we have the 0. We also have 19, which adds up to 10, which is the sun card. The more we can see ourselves as complete and whole, the more we can see ourselves as connected to everything around us, the more energy there's going to be to create these changes. It is the collective consciousness that's going to move us forward, that's going to be the ultimate decider. We are part of that. So I could sit and do a reading every week and basically tell you what is going on in the sky, tell you what is going on based on my own experiences. Or I can do a reading looking into the energy and how to best navigate it and leave that with you, because you have an important part of the collective consciousness as well. There's going to be quite a separation between those types of energies next year as we recognize, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the difference between psychic and seer energy, but also what they both have in common, which is our ability to expand beyond what we know. Our ability to let go of areas that may be uncomfortable. Our ability to recognize that awareness itself is the greatest leveler. It is the greatest change. It's okay to be confused. It's okay not to have the answers. It's okay to not know what direction you're going to take. It's very important actually to acknowledge that. It's very important to be aware of where you are at, so that you're not, I can see a monkey banging cymbals together, so that we're not a wind-up toy running in fight or flight or patterned behaviours. It's okay to pause. It's okay to see those gaps as opportunities, because there is a big difference between knowledge and wisdom. Both will get the wheel turning, only one will actually make it move in a different direction. Is there anything else on that? Well, that is not what I intended to speak of at all, but I'm just looking at my journal and I've got the words know where you stand. Know where you stand in the middle of it all. Know your importance. Recognise your part to play in what is occurring. Come back to that energy that is yours, and that is the opportunity this week. The other thing I've written down is on the 29th, Mercury goes into Scorpio and it trines Neptune in Pisces. So really looking at some profound truths that could come up around the 29th, around things that have yet to be said. Again, it's going back to that energy of how often have we placated a situation because we want to avoid conflict. What impact has that had on our own authenticity? Mercury then goes into Sagittarius and clashes with Uranus, which is the sudden insights and the genius that I spoke about. And 30th, Mercury sextile Pluto in Aquarius. It's a collective voice of aligned actions. Come the 2nd, we have Venus in Libra, square Jupiter in Cancer, which is all about love, balance and belonging. What feels safe and what feels right emotionally. You may find that the things that you offer want to expand in knowledge and wisdom as well. So I know nothing about astrology, only what I feel, and then I look it up to see whether or not that is aligned with what's going on, and that feels important. What do we feel first before we go seeking the answers externally? Because by seeking the answers externally, there are many people out there that are almost allowing that to dictate how they feel. It's the other way round. It really is the other way around, recognising that. Keeping the peace doesn't cost our authenticity, but expand it. Yes, 100%, 100%. So it is a time of compassion, honesty and courage to speak. Oh yes, okay, yours and for some, the collective truth. So you may be talking about things that you don't understand. There's so many times I do this video, I have no idea what I've said until afterwards, and I watch it back, and while I'm saying it I think, oh, do I want to share this video actually, because I don't understand it, I don't resonate with it, but I'm trusting the process, and when I watch it back for editing it makes sense. And it's those that have had readings with me or healings with me, it works the same way. And it's not that I'm not part of that process, but I am but one part of the wisdom being shared. That takes me back to the ancestors' energy, recognizing that they're always there, but that we do need to show up. That we do need to, when we feel that energy to do something, to speak, we do need to do that in however we're being asked to do that, if we want to connect to them, if we want to create with them. And ancestors, obviously, that isn't just those that have been, but those to come, and our future self as well. So this week, really looking at how we may be aligned or not, as the case may be, with our future self, by acknowledging honestly, with courage and openness and compassion, where we actually are. Okay, so on that note, I know that my future self doesn't over question what is coming through, and that the wisdom coming through is trying to be more clear and direct. So I'm going to look at the energies this week and how to best navigate them. I'm going to use the Cosmic Tarot. It's by Norbert Losch. I apologise if I haven't said that name right. This is a tarot deck that I picked up from a Fate. And I haven't actually worked with it yet. The imagery is very different to what I'm used to, and even though there's trepidation there, anticipation there, nervousness there, what I feel is that nervousness is a shift in my own awareness and consciousness and energy. So every time we connect to something that may be new, what that does is allow us to discover something different about ourselves. Now, this is nothing that we don't know, but we're going to feel that on a real deep cellular level. I'm being made aware of some of the things that I've seen out there collectively this week, that yes, I do agree, some of those things may appear less than positive. However, positive negative is our mindset. So this morning, and it's very important actually, when you tap into psychic energy, it's very, very important to acknowledge what is intuitive and what is based on your own understanding and your own experiences and what you may have read or what may have happened to you in the past. This morning, it's one of the reasons I do the guidance without looking at the cards. It's an incredible invitation that was offered to me by a tarot teacher many years ago, Tiffany Crossara. She calls it the Tarot Feely. The reason I don't look at the card is because it's quite important to know where you are first before you connect to the information in front of us, because it changes our perspective, right? So this morning, classic example, the card that came out was the Three of Swords, and I didn't feel any loss, I didn't feel any heartbreak, and then I started to question what I felt, and I went through the process, and I recognized through going through the process what had actually happened is I'd separated from the image I could see in front of me, which was a rose being pierced by three swords. I'd separated from the feminine intuitive because I didn't relate to what was in front of me. And I share that because that's really important when we feel into this psychic energy coming through. We may not be the same as it. That doesn't mean there's not a message in that. We may not be matching that energy. We may not resonate with the bog standard messages that are coming through. So some of the collective stuff that I've heard this week is that things may come through in a more negative fashion, but that there's positivity to be found underneath it. For me, that doesn't resonate. I don't feel as if it's negative or positive. I feel as if there's energy coming in. I feel as if psychic energy is coming in and it's increasing our awareness of psychic energy. And with that, there's going to be, thank you, some past life energy that's coming up. So for myself, it's linked to witchcraft, and it's linked to not being a pleasant, not having pleasant energy around witchcraft, both towards me and directed externally towards others in past lives. And that's coming up. And with that, I feel a potential darkness, if you will, but it's not a negativity as such. It's a cellular remembering that's coming to the core so that I can see it for what it is and see the impact that that has had on me and my own receptivity in regards to psychic energy. If we see psychic energy as positive or negative, psychic energy is the feminine, right? So yes, we may see something come up and not quite relate to it. It's really important, therefore, to see where we're at first, because there's no point sharing a message or sharing something that you don't feel authentically aligned with. Now, whether that's psychic energy, doing a reading, or your next career move or your next relationship, if you don't feel aligned with it and you become part of that, it's going back to that energy of at what cost to our awareness. Awareness doesn't restrict us, it expands us. If we are finding this week that we are building more boundaries, having to close down, having to be protective, particularly with psychic energy, one, recognize that you're not in a place to receive that additional information because you're doing so from a protective, defensive standoff, but also look at your own view of what it is you're receiving. How do you perceive it? So I've had a lot of negative views about psychic energy because I've had a lot of negative experiences about psychic energy. So I ensure that I'm as much as possible in an open space, not spiritually bypassing and all love and light, with awareness, but an open space of how that may influence what tries to come through. So what am I getting at? This is the Cosmic Tarot, acknowledging that we are part of the cosmos. We talk about macro and micro, but acknowledging that actually our awareness is a very expanded part of the collective consciousness. Okay. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. So I'm aware that I had the 10 of Wands at the bottom of the pack and I shuffled past that. Be mindful of burnout. Why is it important to acknowledge that we are part of something really, really big? Because it makes things easier. We're not alone. We're not alone. And all the time we can feel that we are, there's going to be burnout. We're not alone. We don't have to figure out all these things. We have each other. So if you're good at something but not particularly clear on something else, then seek information, trade, swap experiences, learn, grow. Okay, energies this week and how to best navigate them. Quite often, thank you, quite often burnout comes from a very restrictive view of ourselves. Where we have separated, segregated, not acknowledged what we're capable of, and instead still done the same actions, but from a very small energy. And the invitation this week is to expand that, to recognise the support we have around ourselves, but also to expand ourselves within that. Okay, we have the 3 of Wands at the bottom, and we then have the Death card. There is a forward movement here, but it comes from the body. Even though it's the Wand card, you can see that this character here is actually moving and dancing, and she's connected to the earth. That movement, that connection to the sun, that connection to the light, expanding our vibration as much as possible by being with our body and connecting to the earth beneath us. Yes, things are shifting. Yes, the veil is thin. Yes, we have the death energy. You know, the celebrations, my end have started with celebrating the animals on the 27th of October. With that, we are being encouraged to open, to remember, to grieve, thank you, to love. To love, to allow that love to be the connection, whether that's to our body, to the earth, to our guides, to our ancestors, to the transformation that is needed, to our view on time, to our view on wealth and abundance and lessons learned. To get to the bones of it now, to get to the core of it now. In our emotions, not our need to understand things. When we feel something and it's painful, when we feel something and it causes a reaction in our body, there is often a temptation to block that out. And that can be with painkillers, that can be with spirituality, that can be with distractions, work, relationships, and there's no judgment on this at all. That can be with our need to understand it also, but there will come a point, an invitation, a closing of a time loop or circle or whatever you want to call it, where we are encouraged to go to the next level. And that's where we're at. It's not that these things haven't happened. It's not that this awareness hasn't been gained. It's about bringing it home now, recognizing that the only thing that dies is separation. The idea of separation, everything is complete. Bring it back now to your bones, to your body, to your emotions, to the thing we may find this week, the very thing that we've been trying to avoid, continues to I want to say rear its ugly head, but that is very much about our perspective of it. And until that changes, the lessons will always be the same, because it's about acknowledging our shadow for the beauty that it can bring, ancestral healing for the wisdom we can take forward, not about what we can fix, get rid of, end. Completion is integration. So how can we do that this week? Because it's that that's going to move us forward. Okay. Well, let's break it down day by day, and the choices are going to be up to you. I'm going to choose to break it down day by day. I like to have steps forward. For me, it's one thing to know what's going on, but what then? What am I going to do about that? What has resonated with me? Integration particularly has resonated, the word integration. So how can that be best integrated? How can these changes best be integrated to help us move forward? Because that, for me, is what I'm all about. We're all different, but that's what I bring to the table, and it's very important to acknowledge that this week. When we know where we are, we know what we can offer. Okay. Two of Pentacles, balance, harmony, steps forward. Yeah, that balance and that harmony is going to come in taking a step forward, making a choice, a physical choice here. We may not know what direction to go in, but allowing that confusion, that need for clarity to direct us. We may not have the answers, so putting that out there, acknowledging that, and then waiting for that step to come, be that a teacher or a phone call or looking for different jobs or going to different places in relationships. Take that step. Let that be the balance. Okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're incredible cards. I'm really not used to the imagery. They're like different eras. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, overall. So they are different eras, but actually there are some imagery that looks the same, and there's a comfort in that. There's a familiarity in that. So regardless of what's happening this week, there may be things that appear different, but have they changed, or is it you that has shifted and your perspective of it? How can that bring you some comfort and some familiarity with yourself this week? We have the Three of Wands that has come back out of the pack. Sometimes we can mix things up, we can shuffle things up, but the same answer still continues to come back out. It is an opportunity to start to move forward. She isn't moving at the moment. She's prepared. She's connected to her light. She's connected to the earth. She's seen the lotuses in front of her growing in the soil of the experiences and the darkness that has happened. She's ready to move. And in that readiness, in that preparation, in that open receptivity, things start to shift. So it's a bit of a journey until we get there. A journey of harmony, a journey of balance, whether that's throughout the week or on an individual daily basis. On the Monday, we have the Five of Wands. Looking at any conflict that we feel with our actions. It is action-based because it's two masculine characters here. So looking at any conflict that we feel with our own spirituality, with our own authenticity, with our own guidance. This morning, I just thought, hang on, this is like 30 years in, and I'm having a moment where I'm looking at a card not relating to that. Yes, of course, because I'm still learning. We're all still learning. So seeing conflict, seeing misunderstanding, seeing confusion, seeing that feeling as an opportunity to expand. Don't fight that. We're constantly learning. We're constantly growing. We do not know it all. Isn't that wonderful? Think of all the potential that can come through as a result of finally letting go of thinking that we have all the answers, because the truth is we don't. And on a spiritual level, we're going to really feel that on the Monday. The colours in this card are very pink and very red orientated. There isn't really any, there's a slight hint of purple here and a slight hint of white here, but it is very much to do with how grounded we feel in the love that we have, whether that's love for our family, love for ourselves, love for spirituality, love that we are. how grounded are we? So again, today, the 27th of October, is to do with our fur family. For me personally, animals bring forward the wisdom of unconditional love. Do we have that? Can we connect to that? What's that going to take? Compassion, shit ton of courage, particularly if we have experiences that have hurt us. The thing here, I'm not suggesting that you push yourself out of your comfort zone. That's not my place to say. But what I will invite you to look at is, where is that comfort zone based? And how comfortable is that? A lot of conflict comes from not acknowledging our potential. A lot of conflict comes from not feeling into our expansiveness, believing that we have to decide, believing that we have to separate, believing that we have to fight for many, the birthright of being who you are. And that could really come through on the Monday in our actions. Yes, there are two characters fighting here. Yes, we could be projected upon or have reflections that have come up that glimmer us. But this is more to do with our actions. This is more to do with our creativity and productivity. Thank you. Yes, productivity. I'm very, very tempted. This video is going to be a short video. I'm very tempted at the moment to over explain and go into things a lot more, because ironically there's so much I need to be getting on with that I'm feeling uncertain of whether or not I can complete it. So I'm wobbling and losing my connection, and things are taking longer and harder. And I share that one because I'm a vulnerable sharer, and I think that's really important. But also looking at where you may be feeling less than because of what you're capable of on the Monday, and the necessary constrictive contractions that is causing in your body and in the actions that need to be completed. On the Tuesday, the energy's changed. We have quite a very sovereign masculine male there now in the Two of Wands. Those mountains of learning are behind him, that wisdom. So for us, the mountains are the Apus. They're the wisdom keepers. So those mountains are behind him. He has walked the distance, done the dance with himself, ready to walk through whatever he is now facing. And it does feel as if it's a portal, although tomorrow isn't actually a portal, but it does feel as if it could very well be for many a gateway into something different. And that difference is how we view ourselves. And from that perspective, I'm going to invite the acknowledgement that that's an everyday ongoing thing. If we can stand in our worth, there's an opportunity to walk through some situations that are quite repetitive, that are just here to provide that for us. I am being drawn to recognize here that the sun is slowly going behind a cloud, that the light may not be as clear as we would like it, particularly in regards to things in the past. But the Two of Wands isn't about going back to the past. So if we're trying to seek clarity with things that have happened, we may find some confusion. And what I see there is it's almost disintegrating behind us, like these timelines behind us are disintegrating, like they're nothing out of Never-Ending Story. They're slowly disintegrating, and the more we try and look back, I can hear I think it's a Greek story of I'll look it up, might be Psyche, one of the archetypes that rescued the feminine. And all they had to do to leave the underworld was to not look back, but they looked back and were then stuck there. So this, particularly on the Tuesday, not focusing too much on what has happened, but looking forward. It's going to be hard. I feel the temptation to feel what's behind us. Keep focusing forward on the Tuesday. On the Wednesday, we then have the first major arcana of the week. I think it's the only... No, we have two. How could I not notice that one? The World card. And I love this because she's like belly dancing, which is what I do at the moment, Egyptian belly dancing. So I really like that. And I like it because I resonate with it. I like it because I can relate to it. So come the Wednesday, really feeling into whatever has been happening as an opportunity to recognize where what we connect to may have changed, because we have changed. We can do that. We're allowed to do that. We're allowed to evolve. We're allowed to grow. And actually there's great joy there, particularly as we go into, I think it's the following week with the Taurus full moon. It's not about being grounded to external things, but really how connected we are to ourselves. And that doesn't mean being stuck in one version of ourselves, but embracing them all. moving with them all, seeing with them all, dancing with them all, creating with them all. In this, the only veil that there is the very thin cloth that is trying to cover her modesty now. The very thin, they do feel thin, very thin beliefs that are born from judgment, or born from shame or guilt or anxiety or embarrassment. On the Wednesday, it may feel as if they're huge. It may feel as if they're really rising to the surface, like, oh my God, I thought I dealt with this and I just want to curl up and disappear. It isn't as big as it seems. Let it disintegrate. Move your body, move your perspective, move your situation. Really connect to that intuitive female wisdom of Scorpio season, particularly around taboo subjects. Investigate, have some curiosity, have some fun here. Let the body show you the way. We often claim that we don't know what we want or we don't know where we're going, but actually if we feel into the body, it knows. We may not like what it suggests, particularly on the Wednesday, but feeling into that will give us the answers. On the Thursday, we then have the Ace of Cups. Itchy elbow, very itchy elbow on the Thursday, and it's the funny bone, right? So allowing that wisdom of humor to open us up, to lighten things up, to, you know, we can get our heart set on one particular thing and it can become very rigid. I do this myself all the time. It can become very rigid. And when I think of, there's a lot of stars here, when I think of the star card, how she holds the water and it flows, the past and present flows through her, and she creates new visions continually. Well, in this, the cups almost that the star card is holding contains the stars as well. So open up, see beyond what one thing your heart might want or yearn for or be focused on, and recognize that everything else is connected to it. Let it flow. I hear the song Let It Go, and it's not about letting it go this week. It is about just letting it flow. Whatever comes up on the Thursday in particular, be that grief or humour or happiness or sadness, let it flow. We're going to be feeling ours. We're going to be feeling the ancestors. We're going to be feeling the very thin veil. We're going to be feeling the shift in seasons. We're going to be feeling huge transformations come the end of the week. So just let it flow. Let it move through you. On the Friday, we have the King of Swords. And what I'm drawn to here, one is the badge of Libra, but also the hawk. Yes, he has a sword. Yes, he has a crown. Yes, he's very wise, very wealthy, very structured, very aligned. But he has a badge. He's celebrating balance and harmony. And he has a hawk. He has a clear vision. He has not only a clear vision, but the unconditional love, the animalistic nature of that. Allowing that to be what brings balance. Allowing that to bring what changes our perspective now. I can hear the song Track of Our Tears, but what I heard was take a good look at my face. Really looking into your own soul come the Friday, and doing so from a place. There's a thing that you can do where you look into the mirror and you look into the left eye, and there's a belief that you see past lives. Be mindful that we are over Halloween. That's the day. Oh, that is Halloween. My whole camera just shifted then. That is Halloween actually. We are in that time. So be mindful of that. But use this opportunity, thank you, to see where the veil that has fallen upon you has actually obscured the vision you have of yourself. There's no point aiming for these things if you don't believe you're capable of doing them. So how can you change the perspective you have of yourself? I had some wonderful dreams last night. In one of them, there was a lot of dreams about vampires, and they could only escape. They needed to get out of this room before the light came in. There's a huge download of light coming in, but they needed to get out of this room before the light came in order to survive. And the only way to do that was to fly. And that feels really, really important this week, that we really look at where we may have clipped our own wings, what we may need to do in order to fly towards the light. It's not about escaping the light, but it is about moving up towards it, to greet it from within. The other side of the dream that I had last night, I was doing a healing surrounded by angelic beings, actually, and ancestors of a medicine person, a shaman of the village. And that person was actually possessed, and they were very negative in how they saw things. Now I can recognize that part in myself as well. So really looking, what I'm getting at this week is really looking at, in the trippy energy, in the psychic energy, what parts are being reflected back to you. How has that affected the vision that you have of yourself, and therefore anything that you're trying to connect to or achieve? I really struggle to connect to the angelic realm because I don't feel worthy. So that affects my perception of them and of myself within that. And it's an ongoing process. So again, come the Friday, it's the same with the ancestors. Yes, it's the same with the ancestors as well. There's a lot of ancestors that are trying to come through. When we talk about ancestors, it might not be blood relation. It can just be collective ancestors as well. So there's a lot of ancestors that are trying to come through that would be of a, I would guess humans would call a higher hierarchy, archetypes, big strong characters here, angelic realms, ascended masters that are still ancestors. They are our ancestors too, and they are trying to come through as well to help on the collective. But if we do not recognize ourselves within that, there's a divide, there's a veil, there's a boundary, there's a barrier. So why is it important to acknowledge our worth? Because then we can connect to energies that help us build and create upon that. And I go back full circle to what I shared at the beginning of the video. Many are going to be asked to speak for greater visions than their own. But you've got to get out of the way. It's not that yours aren't important, but they are part of something that's far bigger. And that energy helps you tap into that too, to achieve yours and the greater wisdom around it, the greater potential around it. On the Saturday, when we recognise that, we have the Tower card. I have to draw your attention to this because the crown almost looks like a bra or a buttocks. Yeah, it almost looks like a tit or an arse, you know, being aware where our own perceived sovereignty can be coming from a more egotistical perspective, particularly when we think we know it all, particularly when we comes to who we connect to, our guides as well, and the vision that is being shared or not shared as a result. Okay, so there's many people, so I talked about the angelic realm, there's many people that are being called to connect to energies that may not be in their normal sphere of practice, and it's being blocked. And changes that are necessary cannot occur until we recognize that we are made up of all of these energies. So for myself, yes, the angelic realm makes me feel uncomfortable for my own particular reasons, but that doesn't stop me from knowing that I need to connect to those energies if I'm going to create not only what I'm trying to create, but what is being asked of me to deliver also. This week, particularly on the Saturday, in order for things to change, we're going to get insights before then with the whole Uranus thing that I mentioned at the beginning. But this week, particularly with on the Saturday, we're going to get insights into where our sovereignty means nothing if our actions aren't aligned to it. And that comes from our vision, our perspective, how we use the psychic energy that is coming in. And I want to say it's one thing to know, it's another to do, but it goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. It's another to feel. I myself can get very caught up in what do we do with these energies, and sometimes there's nothing that needs to be done but to witness and to feel and to allow them to move through us, to recognise that that actually moves us forward collectively and individually far greater than we can ever acknowledge or hope to understand, because it comes from feeling. On the Sunday, we go back to that Three of Wands, that hollow bone, allowing the process to move through us, trusting we will integrate what is needed into great what is needed as a result. Those gaps are an action. Pauses are an action. Awareness is an action that cannot occur if we're distracted, if we're busy, if we're avoiding, if we're blocking, if we're wanting to understand from a mental perspective alone, or even a spiritual perspective alone, recognizing the importance of the human body as we go into 2026 as well, for the very center of any medicine wheel, the very cliff edge of any change. Overall, we have the Six of Pentacles. We do have balance here, and it's not the balance that we would think. It's not the balance of just physical steps. It's the ability to hold everything that we have done up until this point under the spotlight and see it for the magic that it is. See ourselves for the magic that it is. You can see this character is almost like the Fool card. I just want to turn him around, give him a dog and a bag and get him to just jump off the cliff here. We can't do that. We can't do anything different. We can't take that leap until we see the magic that we have created in ourselves. Otherwise, it's not different. It's the same. If we see ourselves the same, and yes, that does come in the comfort of believing we know everything. If we see ourselves the same, and we restrict the amount of wisdom or nuances and beginnings and awareness and paths that are trying to come through, it won't ever be different. Okay, so what do we have? 1, 2, 3 wand cards, 2 major arcanas, that and that. So we have 2 major arcanas, the World and the Tower, and it's that's being shifted. How we see ourselves in the world, how we see ourselves as the creator of the world that we see, and vice versa. That's all that's needed. We then have 1 sword card, the King of Swords, letting that vision not dictate but support our actions, or finding something that helps us to support our actions, finding a vision that helps us to support our actions. So if you're going to see the world as a miserable place, you're going to find a lot of things that will support that reality and that will then define your actions. I'm not suggesting that you bypass, but I am inviting us all this week to look at where we are perceiving things from, what actions we take or do not take based on that, and whether or not that's working for us. We may find that it is. We may find that actually we want to feel this way about things, but that's not based on our external reactions. That's coming back to allowing ourselves the permission to feel what we're feeling. Which brings me on to the 1 cup card, the Ace of Cups. Authenticity is not all love and light. Authenticity is not all joy and wonder. Authenticity is real and true to where you are. Let yourself have that, however you need to support yourself through that this week. I hear, and the truth shall set you free. Okay, we then have 3 wand cards. We have the 5 of Wands, the 2 of Wands, and the 3 of Wands. Every time you feel that conflict, pause. Let the gap be the opportunity that it is. Let it integrate into your body what's going on. Feel from where you are connecting to, or rather creating from. When we recognize where we're connected to, we can take responsibility from where we are creating from and from what we are creating. That may be what we're trying to avoid this week. We then have 2 pentacle cards, and I will speak of the cards that are underneath, but 2 pentacle cards, the 2 of Pentacles and the 6 of Pentacles. The steps that we take forward are going to be based on how we see everything that we have gained. So if we believe that we're not enough and we take a step forward from that perspective, there's a high chance it will be like that, but that's okay. That will bring in what we need to believe that we are enough. So have some fun with it. Stop trying to understand it and physically make the move. I can hear the song Make the Move now. Make the move towards what you're trying to achieve. You may not know where you want to go, but you know what you want to feel, right? We then have the Hierophant, and there is another, and the Moon underneath. So there's a lot of cards in between the King of Cups, the Queen of Cups, and the Prince of Pentacles. Prince of Pentacles. There's a lot of cards in between, and I do feel something related to the royal family here as well. I do feel as if there will be a shift in the royal family maybe over the weekend, but a fall from grace with the royal family. I don't want to get into everything that's going on with some of the members of the royal family because it's not how I decide to read, but what I will suggest is looking at what is occurring. So for me, there was an example with that really struck me. I didn't like the removal of the knighthood, and when I fell into that for Andrew, and when I fell into that, I'm not getting into the politics of what he's done and what he hasn't done because that's not what this video is about, but I took responsibility for what I felt and what I related to, and it was the removal of the knighthood. And for me, that was a past life thing. For me, that was a hang on, look at all the work that has been done. So what I'm getting at this weekend is anything that happens, particularly around royal or hierarchical energies, what is that bringing up for you? How can you relate to that? Yes, there's a fall from grace occurring for us all. None of us are immune. Okay? So really feeling into that, because we have the Hierophant and the moon from now until the full moon, although this is a very Piscean type energy, so it's that psychic energy, recognizing the moons are that they're cycles of the psychic energy that's coming in, and our own psyche that is actually saying, do you know what, you've learnt this. I was going to say earned this. You've learnt this. Recognizing where our own dogmatic decisions have gone against our intuitive nature and recreated lessons that perhaps weren't as necessary as we believed them to be. I'm going to leave it at that. Take care. Have the most incredible week. Celebrate with your ancestors. Be present with your body. And I shall see you nearer to the full moon. Take care.